The glass mug slammed against the wooden floor with a sharp crack, and suddenly the entire room froze in silence. "You think you're tough?" Razor Kane's voice sliced through the quiet, his massive hand gripping the collar of the woman, wiping down tables. The snake tattoo twisting on his neck seemed alive, his whiskey breath hot and threatening as he pulled her close. "I asked you a question." "Darling, this place pays for protection, or this place burns. Which one will it be?" Maya Delgado kept her eyes on the floor, her posture small, her presence unthreatening. 10 members of the Iron Serpents rose from their seats, boots grinding against the wood as they formed a circle. She looked barely 5'4" in her old sneakers, her white work shirt loose on her thin frame-dark hair, tied in a plain ponytail that made her seem younger than her 34 years. Everything about her whispered. Ordinary, forgettable. Weak, but in just 15 minutes, Razor Kane would be on his knees, begging for mercy before we dive into that moment of transformation. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone and thought they were powerless? Only to discover they carried a strength you could never imagine. Share your story in the comments and tell us where you're watching from, because your words might inspire someone else to never give up. The tension inside Carter's Roadhouse had been building long before that glass shattered. The Iron Serpents had stormed in just after 8 p.m., their engines thundering like a storm rolling over the highway. It wasn't their first time visiting bars along this stretch of road near Ridgefield, and everyone already knew their reputation. 3 bars in the last month had mysteriously gone up in flames after refusing to pay. 2 owners had ended up in the hospital, their injuries brushed off as accidents. Maya had noticed them the moment they walked in, her hands folding napkins with calm precision, every movement deliberate. Economical Leo, the 24-year-old bartender, immediately broke into a sweat when he spotted the serpent patches. "That's them," he whispered, his voice trembling. "The serpents. They're the ones who torched Ramsey's place last week." Maya only nodded, her hands steady, folding napkins into flawless triangles. Leo had been watching her habits for the 6 months she'd worked there. The way she wiped down tables in perfect lines, the way she arranged condiments with almost military accuracy, and how she never turned her back on the door for more than a few seconds. Then Razor Kane made his entrance like a king, all 6'3" of him filling the doorway, his arms stretched wide, daring anyone to challenge him. The snake tattoo that earned him his name began at his jawline, curling down beneath his leather vest. His shaved head gleamed beneath the dim amber lights. His crew of 9 spread out behind him, not randomly, but with purpose. Maya noticed it instantly, a calculated formation covering the exits, holding the sightlines, claiming control of the room. "Evening, folks," Razor Kane said. His voice carried a false warmth, the kind that always came before violence. "Don't mind us. We're just here for a friendly drink and a little business talk." The regulars shifted uneasily in their seats, mostly retired servicemen and local workers, and in the corner booth sat Sheriff Daniel Harris, a grizzled veteran of 2 overseas tours, now sworn to protect his hometown. He set his coffee cup down slowly, his weathered hand drifting toward his hip. But tonight, he wasn't armed. Maya approached their table with her order pad, her eyes lowered, her voice calm. "What can I get you, gentlemen?" Then the first spark of trouble lit. One of the bikers, a wiry man with broken yellow teeth, smacked her as she passed. "How about starting with a smile, sweetheart? You look like someone just died." She slipped smoothly out of reach. It looked accidental. But it wasn't, and she continued taking orders without reaction behind the bar. Leo stiffened, his young face flushed with anger, ready to move. But Maya caught his eyes. With the faintest shake of her head, she stopped him cold. The gang ordered round after round of beer. Maya served them quietly, precisely, never faltering. That's when she felt it. Razor Kane's eyes on her, heavy as a weight. She was wiping a table when his voice cut across the noise. "Hey, server girl, where's Carter? We need to have a little talk." "Mr. Carter's out of town this week," she replied softly. Her gaze stayed on the table, not on him. "I'm just covering shifts." "Well then." Razor rose to his full height, his massive frame blotting out the light. "I guess you'll have to pass along a message for us. Tell Carter. The Iron Serpents are offering protection, 5,000 a month, and nothing unfortunate will happen to this place." Maya kept wiping the spotless surface. "I'll let him know you stopped by." And in that moment, the mask slipped. The false smile dropped away, replaced by raw menace. "I don't think you get it, sweetheart," Razor said. His lighter snapped open and shut in his hand. "This isn't a suggestion. It's business. Every bar from here to Brookfield already pays us the ones that don't." He flicked the flame alive and let the silence finish the threat. "Well, accidents happen," Maya said softly, her tone even, her gaze still lowered. "Gas leaks, faulty wiring, tragic things like that. But I can't make decisions for Mr. Carter. I just serve drinks and wipe tables." The serpents thought they had her trapped, their circle tightening like a net, but Maya had already mapped every weakness. The man by the jukebox leaned on a bad knee. She'd seen his limp when he walked in, too near the pool table focused on intimidation, not awareness, and they missed Sheriff Harris shifting quietly into position. Even Razor Kane had stepped too close, inside her reach, his arrogance turning into a mistake. Her fingers brushed the cool metal beneath her shirt, the dog tag she still carried on a chain around her neck, a reminder of the life she had tried to bury. 3 deployments overseas, confirmed kills, medals of valor, scars inside and out, all of it locked away in storage. She had come here searching for peace, but peace never stayed long around soldiers, especially the ones who swore they were done with war. Her reinforced tactical smartphone pressed against her pocket military casing. Encrypted channels, satellite link. She could call for help that would understand instantly. But she had promised herself she'd never reach for those contacts again. With a slow breath, she slipped it back into place, silent as a shadow. "Look," Razor said, his patience fraying. "I'm trying to be nice here, but you're making this harder than it needs to be. Convince Carter to see things our way. Maybe I'll make it worth your while. What do you make here, Scraps? I could take care of you." "Thank you," Maya replied, finally lifting her eyes, her brown gaze calm, almost serene. "But I'm fine with my arrangement." That calmness, that refusal to break, it cut him deeper than open defiance ever could. His thick fingers clamped down on her arm hard enough to bruise. "Listen here. You stuck-up little—" "I'm going to ask you to take your hand off the lady." Sheriff Harris rose from his booth, his voice carrying the weight of command. Even without a uniform, he radiated the presence of a career soldier. Razor laughed, still gripping her tight. "And what are you gonna do, old man? You're off duty, unarmed, outnumbered 10 to 1. Sit down before you get broken." But the sheriff didn't sit, and Maya noticed 5 other patrons shift in their seats, unit pins glinting, military tattoos showing quiet veterans ready to move if needed. The room grew heavy with tension, the air thick, like the moment before lightning strikes. "Tom, it's okay," Maya said gently, using the sheriff's first name. "These gentlemen were just leaving." That's when Razor made his fatal mistake. He yanked her closer, his other hand reaching for her collar. "You don't tell us when we leave when we're ready. And right now, I think this bar needs a lesson in respect." Chairs scraped back across the floor, more patrons rising to their feet behind the counter. Leo gripped the baseball bat with both hands, but Razor's focus never left Maya. He wanted to break her will to prove his dominance, to crush the quiet resistance in her eyes. "You know what your problem is?" he snarled, his face inches from hers. "You think you're better than us, too good to show respect. Maybe I need to remind you of your place." His fist clenched her shirt tight in his grip, and for the first time, The whole bar held its breath. Maya stood perfectly still, her breathing calm, her eyes steady. To most in the room, she looked like a frightened server desperate not to provoke more trouble. But Sheriff Harris, with his years of combat experience, saw the truth others missed. Way her weight rested on the balls of her feet. The way her hands were angled, ready. The subtle shift of her body creating space for movement. "Last chance," Razor Kane growled. "You're going to call Carter right now and tell him he's got a new business partner or things are going to get very unpleasant." "I can't do that," Maya replied simply. Then came the sound that cut through the room like a gunshot fabric tearing. Razor yanked hard, ripping her shirt open from collar to mid-chest. She staggered back, the ruined fabric falling away, revealing the black tank top beneath. But what that tank top revealed changed everything. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the jukebox seemed to hesitate, as though the universe itself needed to pause. Etched across Maya Delgado's back, visible through the thin fabric, was a masterpiece of ink and history, an eagle and shield intertwined with a globe, wings spread wide in flawless detail. But it was the words beneath that made veterans in the bar gasp aloud. Force Recon, inked in bold letters, marking her as part of one of the most elite special operations units. Beneath it, the designation: Gunnery Sergeant M. Delgado, 031 Infantry, tip of the spear, the one sent where others feared to tread, and surrounding the tattoo, the scars told their own truths. A puckered bullet wound high on her shoulder blade, shrapnel marks scattered along her ribs, a jagged scar running down her side, disappearing beneath the hem of her tank, the kind that only comes from a blade that went deep razor. Kane froze, his hand still clutching the torn fabric, his mouth half open as his mind struggled to register what he was seeing. Behind him, the iron serpents went still, predatory arrogance draining away like water from a cracked glass. "Force Recon," Sheriff Harris breathed, his voice carrying clearly in the hush. Holy hell. Maya's bearing shifted, subtle but undeniable. She hadn't raised her fists, hadn't moved into a stance, hadn't threatened anyone directly. But the change was there, sharp and unmistakable. Her shoulders squared, her chin lifted, and when she spoke, her voice had shed all softness. "Mr. Kane," she said evenly, using Razor's real name, something she should not have known. "I believe you owe me an apology for destroying my property." The air in Carter's Roadhouse shifted, the pressure thick and electric, like the moments before a thunderstorm breaks. Razor. Kane's face shifted through a storm of emotions, confusion, recognition, disbelief, until finally the cold realization hit him. He had made a catastrophic mistake. His grip loosened, the torn fabric slipped from his hand and drifted to the floor like a white flag of surrender. "How do you know my name?" His voice no longer carried power. Instead, it cracked with unease. Maya didn't answer right away. She turned slowly, giving the entire bar a clear view of the ink and scars carved into her backphones appeared in hands, patrons recording what they instinctively knew was history in the making. Maya seemed unaware, or simply didn't care. "Stephen Kane," she said calmly, "dishonorably discharged 6 years ago for stealing and selling military hardware, founded the Iron Serpents 3 years. Back currently wanted in connection with 4 arsons and 2 aggravated assaults." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I make it my business to know who threatens any establishment in my area of operation." "Your area of—" Razor started, but the words died in his throat, the meaning crashing down on him like a hammer from the corner booth. A grizzled man in his 60s rose to his feet. Maya had served him coffee every Tuesday for half a year, never realizing he was Colonel Mark Harrison, retired Medal of Honor recipient Gunny Delgado, he said firmly. The authority of command unmistakable in his tone. "Force Recon. I remember you now. Operation Iron Dagger. Fallujah. 2004. Maya's stance shifted without thought, the unconscious response of a Marine acknowledging rank. "Sir," she said quietly, "you're the one who held that schoolhouse for 17 hours with a broken rifle and 3 magazines waiting for the evac birds to break through." "It wasn't just me," he replied, his voice rough. "Lance Corporal Wilson, PFC Chen." Her voice caught slightly at the names. They didn't make it out. Another patron stood up, Maria Lopez, the florist who ran the shop down the street. No one knew she had once been a Navy corpsman attached to Marine units. "I was at camp. Bastion when they wheeled you in," she said softly. 60% burns, 3 gunshot wounds, enough shrapnel in you to set off alarms across an airport. The doctors said you'd never walk again." "Doctors can be wrong," Maya replied simply. The iron serpents were edging toward the door now, their once perfect circle shattered. But 5 men quietly stepped into position, blocking the way. Each carried the quiet weight of real combat, not bar fights or staged intimidation. "Leaving already?" one asked, a Hispanic man with faded sergeant stripes tattooed on his arm. "But you haven't apologized to the lady yet." Razor's face flushed dark red, caught between humiliation and the desperate need to save face in front of his crew. "Look, we didn't know she was—" "You didn't know what?" Maya stepped forward, and though she was nearly a foot shorter, Razor instinctively backed away. "That I bled for this country, that I've earned the right to basic human dignity, or just that I could break you in ways you can't imagine?" Her hand brushed unconsciously at her lower back, where a compact medical kit was tucked beneath her apron. Inside, combat-grade supplies, hemostatic agents, trauma tools, field meds that had once saved lives in Iraq and Afghanistan, she carried. Them still, because a Marine is always prepared even when serving drinks in a roadside bar. The weight of the kit grounded her, though she prayed she'd never need to use it again. "All of the above," Razor admitted finally, his voice small, stripped of all swagger. Sheriff Harris stepped closer, his hand resting casually on his phone. "Ms. Delgado, would you like to press charges for assault? We've got plenty of witnesses to the unwanted touching and the destruction of property." Maya considered for a long moment, then shook her head. "No need, Sheriff. I think Mr. Kane and his friends were just leaving, and they won't be coming back, will you, Mr. Kane?" Her voice carried a subtle threat, impossible to miss. Razor bobbed his head quickly, his shaved skull nodding like a toy on a dashboard. "No, ma'am, we won't be back. In fact, we'll make sure everyone knows Carter's is off limits, completely off limits. And the other businesses you've been threatening." Her tone made it clear this wasn't a suggestion. We'll reconsider our model," Razor stammered. "Kneel." The word cracked like a whip. Before his mind could process it, his body obeyed. Dropping to his knees, it was the voice of command, the kind forged in life-or-death situations where hesitation meant death, ma'am, he said, looking up at her, confusion and fear mixing in his eyes. "You assaulted me, destroyed my property, threatened my workplace and my colleagues." Maya's voice was calm, almost conversational. "In some places I've served, you'd already be dead. But here we do things differently. So, you're going to apologize properly, then you're going to leave and you're going to spread the word that this entire county is under the protection of Marines who've seen worse than you on our easiest days." Razor's apology came broken, stuttering, but sincere, spoken on his knees, in front of his men, and in front of a bar full of witnesses. When Maya finally nodded, he scrambled to his feet and made for the door, the iron serpents trailing behind him like beaten dogs. At the threshold, Razor turned back once more. "Can I ask, why hide it? Why pretend to be just a server?" Maya's expression softened slightly. "Because, Mr. Kane, real warriors don't need to advertise. We don't wear our strength on the outside. We carry it quietly and bring it forward only when there's no other choice. I came here for peace, to serve coffee, wipe tables, and remember what it feels like to be normal. You took that from me tonight." The bikers left without another word, their motorcycles starting with far less swagger than when they'd arrived through the window. Patrons watched them vanish into the night, and everyone in the room knew they would not be back. The bar stayed silent for a long stretch, then Colonel Harrison's voice broke the stillness. "Gunny, if you don't mind my asking, why here? With your record, you could be doing anything: private security, law enforcement, even teaching at Quantico." Maya bent, picked up her torn shirt from the floor. She folded it with the same precision she'd once folded field maps, and the same care. She used folding napkins at the bar. "With respect, sir," she said quietly, "I've done my time being extraordinary. I've been the tip of the spear, the first through the door, the last one out. I've got 47 confirmed kills, and probably twice that unconfirmed. I've got a box full of medals in storage and nightmares that shake me awake at 0300 every night." Maya moved behind the bar, pulled a spare Carter's Roadhouse shirt from the cubby, and slipped it on with steady hands. "I came here because nobody knew who I was, because I could pour coffee for construction workers without them thanking me for my service with that look. You know the one, sir. Half awe, half pity, half fear. But they tried to take it from you," Maria Lopez said softly. "Those punks tried to steal your peace." "No," Maya replied, buttoning the shirt, her voice calm. "They reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten. Peace isn't something you find by hiding. It's something you create by standing your ground." Leo, who had been frozen behind the bar the whole time, finally found his voice. "Maya, I had no idea. 6 months working side by side, and I never knew. That was the point, Leo." She gave him a smile, the first real smile anyone had seen from her that night. "I didn't want to be Gunnery Sergeant Delgado, Force Recon Marine. Wanted to be Maya, the woman who keeps your coffee hot and your tables clean, but you're a hero." Someone shouted from the back, her expression hardened. "No! Wilson and Chen were heroes. They died protecting civilians. I'm just the one too stubborn to die, too broken to do anything else but keep moving." Colonel Harrison stepped closer, his movements slow, respectful. "Gunny, I know we don't know each other well, but I want you to understand what you did in Fallujah, holding that schoolhouse, protecting those kids. Wilson and Chen didn't die for nothing. 37 children lived because of what you three did." Maya's hands stilled on the towels she was folding. 38, sir," she corrected softly. "One more was born in the evac chopper. Her mother named her Maya." The bar fell into reverent silence. The weight of that truth sank into every heart. Here stood a woman who had given her body as a shield, paid in blood and burns and bullets for lives she didn't know, and afterward she had chosen to vanish into anonymity, serving beer, wiping tables, chasing a piece of normal. "So what now?" Leo asked quietly. "Word will spread. Everyone's going to know you can't go back to being invisible." Maya thought about it as she gathered empty glasses, wiped down tables as if nothing had changed. "Then I guess I'll have to be visible, but on my terms." Within an hour, the bar slowly returned to normal rhythms. Conversations picked up, drinks were poured. The jukebox spun its usual mix of country and classic rock. But something had shifted in the air. People sat taller, straighter. Veterans who had sat in silence with their pain found themselves opening up, sharing stories they had buried. Deep Maya's revelation had given them permission to breathe, to remember to be seen. Sheriff Harris approached as she delivered beers to a table of workers. "Maya, I want to apologize. I should have stepped in sooner. I saw the signs, your posture, the way you scan every room, but I didn't piece it together." "Nothing to apologize for, Sheriff," she said gently. "You did exactly what you should have done. You tried to de-escalate." She paused, then tilted her head. "Army, right? Iraq?" He nodded. 2 tours. Infantry. Nothing special, just a grunt doing his job. Her gaze softened. "Steady. Every soldier is special, Sheriff. Everyone who stands when others don't, who goes where others won't. Don't ever diminish your service." As the night stretched on, Maya fielded quiet questions from curious patrons. Yes, she had served in Force Recon. No, she couldn't talk about most missions. Yes, the scars ached when the weather turned cold. No, she didn't regret her service, only some of the things it had required around 11 p.m. As the bar wound down, a young woman approached hesitantly. She couldn't have been more than 22, with the lean build of a runner and a distant stare Maya knew all too well. "Ma'am, I'm Lance Corporal Sarah Webb, just back from Afghanistan. Heard what happened tonight, what you said about not going back to normal?" Her voice dropped low. "How do you do it? How do you come back from that and function?" Maya set her tray down and gave the young Marine her full attention. "You don't come back." "Lance Corporal, not really. The person who left doesn't exist anymore. You build someone new with the pieces. That survived and you find a new mission." She gestured around the bar. "This, serving people, creating a space where veterans don't have to explain themselves, where civilians learn we're not broken, just different, where someone like you can ask someone like me how to survive and get an honest answer, which is this: one day at a time, one table at a time, one act of service at a time, the skills that made us Marines, attention to detail, dedication to mission, protecting others, they don't go away. We just have to find new ways to use them." As closing time approached, Maya found herself cleaning up with Leo. The young bartender kept sneaking glances, clearly burning with questions. "Go ahead," she said, and finally he asked, "Do you regret it? Having your cover blown?" Maya turned a chair upside down onto a table, thinking carefully. "You know what? No, I've been hiding for 3 years, pretending that part of me didn't exist. But it does. It's as much a part of me as my eyes or my hands. Maybe it's time to stop running from it." "You'll stay at Carter's then?" Leo asked quickly. "Where else would I go? This is my post now, and Marines don't abandon their posts." The next morning, Maya arrived to find the parking lot fuller than usual for a Saturday. Word had spread veterans from 3 counties had come to see the Force Recon Marine who had faced down a biker gang with nothing but quiet authority and calm resolve. But Maya made no spectacle of it. She tied on her apron, brewed fresh coffee, and began taking orders. When people thanked her for her service, she accepted graciously, but always turned the conversation back to them, to their own stories. When young veterans approached for advice, she listened more than she spoke during the lunch rush. Carter himself pulled her aside, freshly back from his trip. "Maya, I heard what happened. If you need time off, or if you want to quit." "With respect, Mr. Carter, I've got tables to serve." She gave a faint smile. "Besides, I think business is about to pick up. Every veteran in this county is going to want to come to the place where a Force Recon Marine serves behind the bar." She was right. In the weeks that followed, Carter's Roadhouse transformed. What had been a simple roadside bar became an unofficial gathering place for veterans. The walls began to fill with photos and donated memorabilia. A shelf of military history books appeared in the corner. Every Tuesday became Veterans Night, with Maya's quiet nod of approval guiding it all. But perhaps the greatest change was in Maya herself. She still wore the simple server's uniform, still cleaned tables with that same meticulous precision, still made sure every glass stayed full. But now she no longer tried to shrink into the background. She no longer kept her eyes lowered. She moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had nothing left to prove and nothing left to hide. 3 months after the confrontation with the Iron Serpents, a package arrived at Carter's Roadhouse with her name on it. Inside was a purple heart, polished to a mirror shine. Tucked with it was a note. "Gunny Delgado, you left this behind at Bastion. Thought you might want it back. Corman Lopez." Maya held the medal for a long moment, then carried it to the wall where other veterans had begun to hang their memorabilia. She placed it carefully beside a photo. Someone had found 3 Marines in full combat gear. Dirty but smiling, standing in front of a bullet-scarred schoolhouse. The caption read, "Heroes of Fallujah, LCPL Wilson, PFC Chen, Gunny Delgado." "You know," Leo said quietly, joining her at the wall, "I've been thinking about enlisting because of you, because of what you represent, service, sacrifice. Something bigger than yourself." Maya studied his young face, weighing her words. "Those are good reasons, Leo, but make sure you're doing it for you. Not because you're impressed by someone else's story. The Corps will take everything you give, and then demand more. Be sure you're willing to pay that price. Were you willing?" he asked softly. Her hand went to the dog tags beneath her shirt. No longer a hidden shame. "Every damn day, Leo, and I'd do it again." "But that's me. You have to find your own answer." Later, as she carried a tray back across the floor, Maya caught her reflection in the mirror behind the bar. The woman looking back wasn't the naive 18-year-old who'd enlisted full of patriotic fire, nor was she the broken veteran who had tried to disappear into anonymity. She was something new forged in, service tempered by the choice to keep serving in a different way. Warriors don't need recognition. They serve. The words had become her quiet motto, her explanation to reporters who sometimes showed up wanting to tell the story of the biker bar Marine. She poured coffee, cleaned tables, listened to stories, and created a safe place for anyone who walked. Through the doors, it wasn't Fallujah. There were no medals for it, but it was her mission now. And she carried it out with the same dedication she had given every other mission of her life. The eagle and anchor tattoo on her back, once hidden like a secret, now stood as a reminder to all who entered Carter's Roadhouse. Here was sacred ground. Here veterans were understood, civilians were welcomed, and everyone was treated with dignity. Here a Marine still stood watch, not with a rifle, but with a coffee pot, not in a combat zone, but in a roadside bar, still serving, still protecting, still faithful semper fidelis. Always faithful to the Corps, to her fallen brothers, and to her new mission. Maya Delgado had found her peace, not by hiding from war, but by choosing to keep serving in peace. And Carter's Roadhouse would never be the same.